Welcome to my channel. Sophia sat by the floor-to-ceiling window of their penthouse apartment, watching the city flicker with distant lights. To anyone else, her life seemed immaculate. Married to Ethan Carter, a successful businessman surrounded by opulence, her every material need met. Yet, beneath the surface, cracks had begun to form, thin fissures stretching across the pristine facade of their marriage. Ethan had always been intense. His presence filled every room he entered. His words carried weight, and his desires became law. When they had first met, this dominance had been intoxicating. He had pursued her with an unmatched fervor, sweeping her into a life of luxury and security. But somewhere along the way, his passion had turned cold. Conversations became instructions, touch became ownership, and love, once fervent, turned into routine. Sophia traced the rim of her wine glass, lost in thought. It had been weeks since Ethan had truly looked at her, months since his touch had held any warmth. He provided, but only in ways he deemed necessary. Affection, tenderness, and attention were not among them. Her phone buzzed on the marble countertop, shattering the stillness. She glanced at the screen and hesitated before picking it up. "Daniel, I saw a book today that reminded me of you. Made me wonder how you're doing." Her breath caught. Daniel. The man she should not be speaking to. The man who had, in the span of a few chance meetings, made her feel seen again. Their conversations had begun innocently. Shared glances at a cafe, discussions over literature, a lingering touch on her wrist that had set her pulse racing. It had not been an affair. Not yet. But it was something. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard before she typed back a measured response. "Sophia, what book?" A message appeared almost instantly. "Daniel. An old poetry collection. One about love and longing." It reminded me of that conversation we had about lost things. Sophia swallowed hard. Daniel had a way of peeling back layers, of making her confront truths she had buried deep. She had spoken to him about loneliness in a way she had never dared with Ethan. She had told him about the feeling of being a ghost in her own home, about the nights spent lying awake beside a man who no longer whispered her name. She placed her phone face down, guilt curling in her stomach. This was dangerous. She knew it. And yet, she could not bring herself to sever the connection. The sound of keys jingling at the door sent a jolt through her. She turned just as Ethan entered, his presence overwhelming the space. He set his briefcase down with precision, removed his watch, and glanced at her. "You're up late." His tone was neither questioning nor warm. Just an observation. Sophia nodded. "Couldn't sleep." Ethan's gaze lingered on her for a moment before he moved to pour himself a drink. The silence between them stretched, thick and unyielding. She used to fill these gaps, used to reach for him, but she had stopped trying. She had learned that his mind was always elsewhere, on business, on control, on everything except her. He took a sip of his whiskey and finally spoke. "I have a business dinner tomorrow night. You don't need to wait up." She swallowed the bitterness rising in her throat. Of course he assumed she would be waiting. That was her role, wasn't it? The wife in the background, ever present but never truly seen. "All right," she said quietly. Ethan studied her for a second longer, then turned toward their bedroom. "No good night. No touch. Nothing." She let out a slow breath and picked up her phone again, staring at the screen. A message from Daniel waited. "Daniel, are you happy?" Her heart pounded. She typed, then deleted. Typed again. Her hands trembled slightly before she settled on the truth. "Sophia, I don't know." As she pressed send, she felt something shift within her. A small, dangerous crack spreading through the foundation of her carefully constructed life. And she wasn't sure she wanted to stop it. The air in the cafe was thick with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and warm pastries, a stark contrast to the sterile silence of her home. Sophia sat by the window, fingers wrapped around a cup of chamomile tea, waiting. When Daniel finally arrived, he slid into the seat across from her with a casual ease that made her pulse quicken. He was different from Ethan, softer in the way he spoke, warmer in the way he held eye contact. "I wasn't sure if you'd come," he said, offering a hesitant smile. "I shouldn't have," she admitted, but she was here. That was the problem. Daniel studied her, his gaze searching. "You seemed lost last night." Sophia exhaled, shaking her head. "I don't know what I'm doing anymore." "You're surviving," he corrected gently. Silence settled between them, heavy with things unsaid. It would have been so easy to brush off their connection as nothing more than fleeting loneliness. But that would be a lie. "I should go," she whispered, even as her body leaned forward, drawn to him. Daniel's fingers ghosted over her hand. "Then go." Sophia didn't move. Her phone vibrated in her purse. Text from Ethan. Dinner plans changed. Be home early. She looked up at Daniel, torn between the life she had built and the life she was beginning to crave. "I have to go," she said, this time with conviction. Daniel nodded, though his eyes held an unspoken promise. As she stepped outside, the crisp air hitting her skin, she realized something terrifying. This wasn't over. It was only just beginning. Sophia's heart pounded as she stepped through the front door. The penthouse was quiet, but the silence felt heavier than usual. Ethan was home early. He sat in the dimly lit living room, his fingers wrapped around a glass of whiskey. His gaze locked onto her the moment she entered, unreadable, piercing. "Where were you?" His voice was calm, too calm. Sophia steadied herself. "At the cafe." Ethan leaned forward, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. "Alone." The air between them thickened. Sophia hesitated, knowing the wrong word could shift the balance irrevocably. "I needed some space," she answered carefully. Ethan exhaled through his nose, something dark flashing in his eyes. "Don't lie to me, Sophia." Her stomach twisted. He knew. The walls were closing in, and she had nowhere left to run.